JPTV.
Hello guys, James Parks from JPTV. Would you absolutely take a gander at this Tesla Roadster I saw in this parking garage? It's something you don't see every day. I was like, what kind of Lotus Elise is this? But no, by the badging and branding, it is a Tesla Roadster. Seen here in the wild. Not commonly seen on the range. But nonetheless, it was an interesting sight to see. Would you look at? I was recently in attendance with some Sunday worshipers at a church here in the Phoenix metro area, and I found out some differences.
Yeah, so the difference between the SDA church and the Sunday churches is there's a lot more congregating, it seems like, at the end of the Sabbath church. It's like all kinds of people, talking to each other, all kinds of things like that. So
what I quickly realized at the Sunday churches, as soon as the Sunday church services were done, the people split like they had things to do. At the Sabbath church, it seems like people hung around a little bit more. Why are people in the U.S. so unhealthy? I have two clips that may just explain just that thing that we are in right now.
It's not an overstatement to say that I learned virtually nothing at Stanford Medical School about the tens of thousands of scientific papers that elucidate these root causes of why American health is plummeting and how environmental factors are causing it. For instance, in medical school, I did not learn that for each additional serving of ultra-processed food we eat, early mortality increases by 18%. This now makes up 67% of the foods our kids are eating. I took 0 nutrition courses in medical school. I didn't learn that 82% of independently funded studies show harm from processed food, while 93% of industry-sponsored studies reflect no harm. In medical school, I didn't learn that 95% of the people who created the recent USDA food guidelines for America had significant conflicts of interest with the food industry. I did not learn that 1 billion pounds of synthetic pesticides are being sprayed on our food every single year. 99% of the farmland in the United States is sprayed with synthetic pesticides, many from China and Germany. And these invisible, tasteless chemicals are strongly linked to autism, ADHD, sex hormone disruption, thyroid disease, sperm dysfunction, Alzheimer's, dementia, birth defects, cancer, obesity, liver dysfunction, female infertility, and more, all by hurting our metabolic health. I did not learn that the 8 billion tons of plastic that have been produced just in the last 100 years, plastic was only invented about 100 years ago, are being broken down into microplastics that are now filling our food, our water, and we are now even inhaling them in our air. And that very recent research from just the past couple of months tells us that now about 0.5% of our brains by weight are now plastic. I didn't learn that there are more than 80,000 toxins that have entered our food, water, air, and homes by industry, many of which are banned in Europe, and they are known to alter our gene expression, alter our microbiome composition and the lining of our gut, and disrupt our hormones. I didn't learn that heavy metals like aluminum and lead are present in our food, our baby formula, personal care products, our soil, and many of the mandated medications like vaccines, and that these metals are neurotoxic and inflammatory. I didn't learn that the average American walks a paltry 3,500 steps per day, even though we know, based on science and top journals, that simply walking 7,000 steps a day slashes by 40 to 60% our risk of Alzheimer's, dementia, type 2 diabetes, cancer, and obesity. I certainly did not learn that medical error and medications are the 3rd leading cause of death in the United States. I didn't learn that just 5 nights of sleep deprivation can induce full-blown prediabetes. I learned nothing about sleep, and we're getting about 20% less sleep on average than we were 100 years ago. I didn't learn that American children are getting less time outdoors now than a maximum security prisoner. And on average, adults spend 93% of their time indoors, even though we know from the science that separation from sunlight destroys our circadian biology, and circadian biology dictates our cellular biology. I didn't learn that professional organizations that we get our practice guideline from, like the American Diabetes Association and American Academy of Pediatrics, have taken tens of millions of dollars from Coke, Cadbury, processed food companies, and vaccine manufacturers like Moderna. I didn't learn that if we address these root causes that all lead to metabolic dysfunction and help patients change their food and lifestyle patterns with united, strong voice, we could reverse the chronic disease crisis in America, save millions of lives and trillions of dollars in healthcare costs per year. Instead, doctors are learning that the body is 100 separate parts, and we learn how to drug, we learn how to cut, and we learn how to bill. I'll close by saying that what we are dealing with here is so much more than a physical health crisis. This is a spiritual crisis. We are choosing death over light. We are choosing death over life. We are choosing darkness over light for people and the planet, which are inextricably linked. We are choosing to erroneously believe that we are separate from nature and that we can continue to poison nature and then outsmart it. Our path out will be a renewed respect for the miracle of life and a renewed respect for nature. We can restore health to Americans rapidly with smart policy and courageous leadership. We need a return to courage. We need a return to common sense and intuition. We need a return to awe for the sheer miraculousness of our lives. We need all hands on deck. Thank you.
Who knows so crazy? Many of the informations we've learned growing up maybe were not correct or the most beneficial to our health. Here's another clip.
Life expectancy has not increased in the past 100 years. We spend 90 to 95% of all medical spending on chronic issues, and it's done nothing. If you think about a medical miracle, it's almost certainly a solution that was invented before 1960 for an acute condition.
It appears these acute conditions are not so cute these days. And what happened to all this money? I'm sure most people like parties for the most part. But did you know? Pastors and rappers also like parties. What about the Diddy party? Let's get into it.
I wasn't even going to say nothing about this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. I've been to a couple Diddy parties. Now, I'm risking a lot by saying this because I know as soon as I say that, all the assumptions are going to come in and if I don't say evil things were taking place, then I'm covering for them. And if I do say evil things were taking place, then I'm one of them ones like, yeah, Lecrae, expose it. You know what I'm saying? And I've been to lots of parties. I've been to Jamie Foxx. I've been with Snoop, T.I. Like, I've been to lots of places. Here's what I'll say. There are people who will test you. There are people who will see how far your limits are. And if you're willing to take a step, then they'll take two. I, in my personal experience, never saw anything where someone was like, you can't move any further unless you do X, Y, or Z. But what I did see was if you do X, Y, or Z, well, keep coming because and that's how we all are. It's Psalm 1, right? It says, blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, who does not stand in the way of sinners, who does not sit in the seat of mockers. You start walking, they gonna walk with you, and now you find yourself standing. They like, oh, you stand? Well, if you stand, come sit. Now, next thing you know, you're sitting. And so it was never a situation where I felt forced to sit. It was a situations where I was asked, do you stand? Do you stand? And I'm like, I don't stand. Oh, okay, cool. And then I was left alone. It's like, oh, he's not about that life. He's not with it. I'm leaving him alone. And this is what I'll say, and I won't say whose party I was at or what party, but this is a crazy situation, right? I was at one of these parties, and for me, I'll be honest, it was a mix of work, because this is oftentimes where you go to connect with people, where you go to meet people. And I have met people here, and I have built bonds, and they have said, I have met actors and celebrities who said, man, thank you for being here. I needed your presence here. You're the reason why I know God is walking with me. And we've had conversations since where they're like,
Vibes, bro.